Hi class! So this video is to sort of orient you to SPSS, um, and we are going to go through the first lab. I know the first lab has been postponed this semester in order for us to get access to SPSS. So I am going to go over some content that we learned at the beginning of the semester, but it will still give you a good overview and basis for Lab 3. So, uh, I posted a file to be able to see if you have access to SPSS, and this is through your LA Valley College login. In this document, the Appstream SPSS document, there's this URL, so you have to copy this URL. Then you log in using your LA Valley College information. You enter in your login information, and then you'll get to this page that says AppStream. So you just have to click on this SPSS icon, and then it will open up, and you will see this. Okay, so I already did that, and this is what it looks like for me. So I got to that point. So what I'm going to do is you'll notice like this top bar, it's not part of SPSS. So when you're in SPSS, um, you can do other things. So there's this own menu bar here, but above that, you want to add the lab. So because we're working on lab 1, um, so I press the file folder, then I'm going to press home, and then upload files. And what you do is download the lab 1 data set. So it'll be lab1.sav. So when you download it, you will, so I'm in lab 3. So in lab 1, when you upload it, so you press the upload button, and wherever you save it, remember where you save it, when you download it off of the module, then you'll have to upload it right onto this site. So I saved it here. I'm gonna press open, and I already uploaded it. But even your first time uploading, I for some reason still got an error. But even though I got an error, it still worked. Okay, so this is the Lab 1 data set, and this is saved in the module for Lab 1 in our course. So then I will close this, and then I'll go back into this SPSS window, and I'll press File, Open, and then Data. And within it, you might have to browse to the home folder, but if you're in this local disk, you have to go into this home folder, right? Because that's where we just saved it. And then what I have to do, because it saves not correctly for some reason, you have to go to all files, and then your data set will show up. So I'm gonna open up the lab 1. Okay, so then I press open, and then from here, I'm going to press go into this full screen because it's a little easier for me to work with it. So I'm going to press this, and it'll resize it and make it a little easier to work with. So I've already been sort of doing little things. So let me just, I think this is okay. This is lab 1. I'm going to close this. Oops. Okay. So, um, so what we want to do is, I want to show you what it looks like in SPSS. So SPSS will open a window when you open up the data set. And what this, sorry, what this data set is just showing exam scores from a quiz, okay, from a class. And you can see that each row is an observation. So each row is essentially an individual student, and then this is the score that they got on their exam score. On their quiz or exam. So then what we always, so this is what we call data, right? All of these points is each individual person. So I can see the number of rows I have. So that means I have 16 individuals, and then I have an exam score corresponding to each one of those individuals. So what I want to do first is to look at what my data looks like. And if you remember, we learned about histograms in the beginning of the semester. So in SPSS, you can make a histogram. So I just went to graphs in the menu bar, then legacy logs, and then histogram. Sorry, actually, before I go into this, I want to show you. So in SPSS, you can see each data point, but then if you press variable view, you can see the variable, and then you can see the type of measure it is, right? So we can change it to a different type of measure, but let's keep it at scale. But if you remember, there's ordinal or nominal having to do with names. Ordinal is ranking, and then let's see. Yeah, so I'm gonna keep it at scale, and then you can put in a label. So I'm gonna say exam score. But you can leave it how it is because the variable is named this way. But this is just when we print out the, when we run our statistics or when we run our data, we can see what the variable is. Okay, so I'm gonna just go back into data view. Again, each row is an individual and their score. And then I want to do a histogram. So I'm gonna go to graphs, legacy logs, and then histogram. And then all you have to do is put this variable, so this is exam score, over here. And then you can just press OK. And what that does is it creates a histogram of our data. And also to note, you can see it will show you the mean and standard deviation and then the number of participants here. So what's really cool in SPSS is that you can also change uh, the intervals, right? So let me double click this, and sorry, I can't remember how I got. I believe it is. I'm gonna press here, and it'll go into this properties. Okay, so we'll open another window. This is why it's nice to have it in like full screen because otherwise it's hard to see everything. So then if you press binning, you can, right now it's automatic, so it's changing the intervals automatically. But if we do custom, you can see, let's say I want the interval width to be 5, and you can see what happens. Now it's going, okay, what are all the participants from 0 to 5? And then where do all the participants fall from 5 to 10? Or sorry, above 5 and to 10, right? So it looks like most of our participants had a score above 5. So I'm going to change this, but I want to change the number of intervals. I'll change that to 5 and see what happens. So now I split this up. I don't know why it's like showing it. Let me change this. But there's 2 here and then 2. 2 from 0 to 2 and then 2 from that's just, sorry, I don't know how to change this. I want this axis to go. I don't care about the reference. So what I just did was add a reference line, right? I don't really care about the reference line, but I'm trying to make the axis go lower. Okay, that's okay for now. I'll figure it out later because what's happening is so I'm just gonna delete these reference lines. Okay, so I showed you this, and I also have slides for lab 1. So essentially I showed you already, I'm looking at the data set, like each individual score is an individual person. We open the data set. You can look at the type of variable, and then I showed you how to create a histogram. So all of these slides are exactly the same. And then, so I went through all this and showed binning and interval width. What else we can do is looking at descriptives. So this is very important. Whenever you have a new set of data, it's very important not only to sort of do what I just did, look at a histogram or some sort of other graph looking at the data, and that allows you to look at outliers, but also to run descriptive statistics. And so that's what we learned. What descriptive statistics is the average or mean, median, and mode, standard deviation, variance, and range. So remember, we learned all about that during the first part of the semester. So, sorry, I keep forgetting where my SPSS is. So let's look at, so don't close this output window because later you will need to save this. But go back to your data. So press on the data window and then press analyze, descriptive statistics, and then descriptives. So we only have one variable in the data set. So you can either double click and it'll go over, or you can press the arrow and it'll go over to this side. So the variables. Let's look at, so this is this window. Let's look at options that we can add. So I have mean, standard deviation, min, max. I want to look at variance too, maybe range. Distribution. So remember how I talked about how we have normal distribution. There are measures to look at what the distribution of the data looks like. So these are just single measures that you can see. So this is what I want to do, and then I will press OK. So then this is our descriptives table. So you can see that we have a total number of 16 participants. That's our N. Our range is 9, and the minimum is 0 to 9, right? Range is the maximum minus the minimum. We have our mean. The mean score was 6.5. And then we have our standard deviation as well as our variance, right? So remember, our variance is the square root, our standard deviation is the square root of the variance. And these are measures of what how spread out our variables are, right? And the mean is a measure of the central tendency, or where the center of our data is. Okay? So let's see. Let's look. Okay, so I went through our descriptives. I clicked all the necessary boxes. So then you can see your results at the bottom. That's what I just showed. And that's it. So what I need to show you how to save this output. So this is, for some reason, this is really hard in this program. It took me a little bit to figure it out. But what I do is I'm in the output window, right? So this is where all of our data is sort of printed out. One thing to note is not to have anything clicked in here, but like just to have things. So I'm just clicking right here so that I'm not clicking only on descriptives because it might only click out descriptives or the graph. So just make sure nothing's clicked. So what I'm going to do is go to File and then Export. So so I'm in Export, right? Then I press Browse, and then I am going to. I know this is weird, but I could only figure out how to save it in temporary files. So press temporary files and then change the type. Oops. Okay, so press cancel. So we want it to save as a PDF because that's just easier to work with. So I changed type to PDF, then browse, and see, I went to the temporary files. It's usually at the bottom. And I didn't save it yet. So I'm going to call this lab1 output. And I'm going to put my name just in case. So I'm going to press save and it should save. And then I'm going to press OK down here. Okay, it looked like it's saved. So now I'm going to so then so I just press escape to get out of that because I went into this full window, but on your keyboard, press escape, and then press my files, and then press temporary files, and I just saved this, right? So to save it to, so it's just in this, so the whole point of this is to submit it for lab 1, okay? So it's saved within this web browser, but I want to save it to my computer so I can upload it to the module. Sorry, to the lab 1 assignment. So I am just going to press download, and then it just downloaded onto my computer in my downloads. So you have to figure out where. I use a Mac, but I'm sure you'll maybe if you're using a PC, it'll give you an option. Just remember where you save it so that you can upload it back to the Lab 1 assignment. So for the Lab 1 assignment, I would like you all to submit your output, right, that you saved. And then, so all you have to do is submit your output. So you can see this is exactly what we just did. Okay. And then, sorry, I had everything queued up, but obviously it wasn't ready. I want you to report your results. So these numbers don't perfectly match what we outputted because I've changed the data since. Actually, they might still be. So let's see. All I'm looking for it's actually different, right? So all I'm looking for is that you understand this table, right? So by taking this data that you have outputted, so the mean, the standard deviation, the variance, and putting it into APA format. And what's really, really key, I will give 0 points for the entire lab if you simply just copy and paste these two paragraphs. But all I'm looking for is something written describing the number of participants that there are. So there's 16 participants, what the range was. So the scores range from 0 to 9 with a mean of 6.25, standard deviation 3.02. And any sort of descriptives, like so here I say, though the mean score was somewhat low, 6.25, the most common score was an 8. So the most individuals had an 8, and we can see that from our histogram, right? Right? So you can see that most individuals fell at an 8. And then, so that I just calculated was by nearly 44%. So I just did the number of participants that had 8 out of the total number, and that was 44%. So all I'm going to grade on is looking for that you post what the number of participants were, the mean and standard deviation as well as the range. So essentially putting together what we collected in the lab output, right? And putting that into APA format. So like focusing on this descriptives table and showing that you did in fact look at this histogram. Okay, so if you have any questions, please post it in the discussion because I'm sure other individuals will have questions. And I realize that there are going to be, it took me a while, and I use SPSS all the time as well as other web-based browsers. So I know there's going to be, you guys will have questions, but please post in the discussion because maybe your other classmates had the same question and maybe they solved it and can help, before I see the discussion post. And just to so yeah, so or send me an email because I get alerts that I get an email. Um, so sometimes that's the best way to reach me, but I really want to encourage all of you to post on the discussion. And just remember the discussion is extra credit. So if you've missed a assignment, it's a really easy way to get points. Okay, and so what I'm expecting from the lab assignment is to turn in your output, right? So make sure before you close anything in SPSS, make sure that what you saved and download is actually everything that you did, right? So I scroll through all my output, and then write up your two paragraphs or one paragraph. I'm just looking for that you include key elements um, for your APA format.